All right, hey guys, welcome to the Weekend Toast. Hope y'all are having a great day so far. Welcome to our new page here. Thanks for those that have come
Woo!
over and followed. We got Josh Offill, Devin Walters, myself, and
What's
Ben
up?
Dishman with you guys. How are y'all doing today?
Doing
Doing
good,
well.
man. Doing good. No complaints. How are you, Isaiah?
Doing
You always
well.
ask us.
Well, yeah, because you
Cool
guys are.
It's
PlayStation
very
shirt.
nice.
Yeah, I like it. It's pretty sweet.
Is that a hoodie or?
No, it's no. I'm sitting against a black
Oh yeah,
chair.
okay. Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, it's been good. How you guys said your week's been well? Sorry, I'm checking to see if everything's working good on our new page here.
Yeah, no, that's been a good week. I'm enjoying the gradual cool down. I know it's going to cool down even more this weekend. Like Sunday, it's going
Yeah.
to be like 80 degrees, and me and Megs are actually going on like a dog park date with Michael and Morgan tomorrow. So we're excited about that. So it's
Fun.
finally cool enough to go outside again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No kidding. Just
Nice.
it being under 90 for a
under
high,
90.
like
I'm cool
that's
with
really, really great. We earned it this year to get a little bit of an early cool down.
it. We did.
Like
We did.
we needed this. We deserve this.
Yeah. It
That's
is kind of weird though, because sometimes the 90s carry all the way over into October, and here we are, like
Yeah.
September, and yeah, it's already looking like we're done with it. So
well.
maybe
I
this.
know one of the things that I've been excited about is the fact that I don't know if you guys watched last night, but football is back.
Yes, it's been bad.
Is it though?
I don't know, man. Last night's game was good. Week
It was a
two
good game.
started. There goes
Who
Ben.
played last night?
The Browns and the
Uh,
Bengals.
Browns Bengals, the Battle of
That
Ohio.
was a good game.
Well, good. I mean, it depends on I guess who you're rooting for, but it was good in the fact that like Baker Mayfield looked really sharp.
Yeah, and if you are a fantasy football player, Odell Beckham finally did something for the first time in a year and a half. Joe Burrow, he kind of struggled like most of the game. I guess the Cincinnati offensive line's not very good, so he took a lot of hits. But then the last two drives, I guess because they were down by two scores, so it was kind of like a no pressure, like, hey, let's just run the 2 minute drill and just get you some practice
Yeah.
in. And he looked amazing in the last two drives. He looked really good. So I wonder as he continues to just get comfortable and the pressure kind of comes down of being a rookie, he might turn into something pretty good.
Yeah, it looked like he was. I mean, definitely he had. You can definitely tell like the speed of the game. It got to him a little bit
Yeah.
yesterday. He looked good last week, but
But
yeah,
then, like, once the pressure was off, like knowing, like, hey, you've already lost this game. There's just not enough time to come back. So treat it like a 2 minute drill and just sling it, man. And once he did that, it was like it looked really good.
well,
Actually, the Romo comp I think is a good one. He does remind me of Tony Romo.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
ooh,
I hadn't heard that comp yet, but that's starting to make sense when I think back to college.
He's got some accuracy and he's got just enough mobility to where he's not a runner per se, but he
Right.
can
How long-
But he can move around behind the line of scrimmage, which I think is much more important than be able to sprint downfield for
Yeah.
a quarterback is just being elusive in the backfield so you can get that last second to get off
Yeah.
a throw.
And then the last two drives, I mean, dude, he took them down the field. One of the drive, I think he went like 5 for 6, commanded, like in 2 minutes and scored a touchdown.
Wow.
Like looks really sharp. Yeah.
That's what he's used to doing.
well,
Yeah,
but
you know?
he also is. They were one possession down, and he fumbled on their one.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like
And so-
before the last two drives, he didn't look that great.
Yeah.
He looked like a rookie who was struggling with the speed of the game. So
What do you guys think about this weekend? Any games y'all are excited for?
oh yeah, Lakers Nuggets game 1. I think it's a walk-in now. I mean, as a Lakers fan, the three teams I was worried about were what, Ben?
Ben wants
What's
you to be
that,
quiet.
Caillou over there?
How many rows do you put in solitaire again? Like three,
Oh,
7?
7?
I don't know.
Starting with 1 and going up to 7? Is that it?
Something
Okay.
like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
as a Lakers fan, the teams I was most concerned about, obviously in the West, were the Clippers and the Rockets. Dealt with the Rockets pretty easily. The Clippers are out. I can't believe that. I can't believe the Nuggets came back from down 3-1 to win that series. And then in the East, it was the Bucks and the the Celtics, but I'm not really that worried about the Celtics. Not this year. I think they're a year or two away. But it does. I think it's, well, I don't know. They're down 0-2. I thought it was going to be a Lakers Celtics finals, and I was like, it's perfect. Like, that's one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports to me because it's a championship rivalry.
Right.
But they're down 0-2 to the Heat right now. So
Well, I was shocked at normally basketball is really weighted towards the favorites in the playoffs anyway, but a lot of the talk going into every sport this year was, since there wouldn't be fans in the stands and it was going to be much more neutral settings, that it would be a, heavy favorites. Like the tournaments would basically go chalk. And so I'm surprised to see that the Bucks were out, that the Clippers lost out in the second round. So that's kind of been a surprising.
So I just had like a heated debate with my friend Clayton in a group text right before we got on, because he was saying Giannis is overrated. And I was like, dude, I don't think you can say that based on this year, based on all the stuff that was happening in Wisconsin. He did have an injury, and I don't think he has the greatest supporting cast around him. I don't know
anybody else on the Bucks.
Chris Middleton is their second best player.
Okay.
And I don't even think you can say he's a top 40 or 50 NBA player. So other than the Toronto Raptors, of all the teams that are actually like legitimate contenders, I don't think there's any where you don't have at least two top 40 players, if not two top 20 guys. Well, the Lakers have two top 10, but
How much longer do the Bucks have Giannis?
One more year, I think, and he actually unfollowed all his Milwaukee people on social media right after after they got kicked out of the playoffs. So players do that every year, maybe just seeing if they can force a trade, and usually they can't. So, but I don't know. I think he plays out next year, and then
he's totally going to pull a Kareem and leave Milwaukee for something better.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
LeBron will be like, all right, I'm out. I'm retiring. And then you can get Giannis and AD together. That'd be amazing.
That would be insane. Yeah. What'd you guys think about the Cowboys game?
Oh,
I actually didn't watch.
Wow.
I watched it. I was really optimistic. Dude, they get me every year, man. Well, I am so pessimistic.
Try to warn you, man. You can't,
And every year there's something that gets me to drink the Kool-Aid. And I thought this year was going to be different. I thought McCarthy was talking about he spent a whole year studying analytics and realizing the importance of that in the game. And that looks like that was all talk to get the job. Because they came out and they looked the exact same as they did last year. It looked like a Jason Garrett conservative offense. So I don't know. The problem is McCarthy. Maybe the problem is Kellen Moore.
I haven't been a fan of McCarthy ever since the whole Red Scare thing.
Was that Ben?
That was.
So anyway, I was never optimistic about Mike McCarthy. I mean, I had the
1950s communism conspiracy, and y'all thought I was talking sports.
Oh no, we're just ignoring you. But go play your game.
I actually do really well, actually.
But I was optimistic about Mike McCarthy in the whole sense of, he's not Jason Garrett, which, I mean, what else can you ask for?
Yeah.
But I did want Lincoln Riley. I thought that I wanted some dramatic shift. I don't believe that he would have been the silver bullet just to make everything work, but I just really wanted a corrective course that said, man, forget it. Just throw everything to the wall and go for it.
Yeah, I wanted.
You don't know how long you're going to have this team together. Just really spice it up. Do the opposite of what we've been doing.
Yeah, I wanted one of the young, really innovative guys too. Because how do you not look at Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and just be jealous of that, and look at their offensive scheming, and it's like, this is incredible. Rather than
and Lincoln Riley had more credit.
Line up and beat your man.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley had as much of the Sean McVay, Cliff Kingsbury, and Kyle Shanahan thing. Lincoln Riley's done it and been successful, more successful than his predecessor. You can't say he was riding Bob Stoops' coattails because he's
for sure.
He's doing better than Bob Stoops towards the end, and he's kept that up with multiple quarterbacks with only 1 year of working with him. So, it's a bummer that didn't work out.
It is, yeah. But then, so I wanted one of the young, hot shots, but then they kind of won me over with the McCarthy thing because the way he was talking about how he took a year off football, studied a ton of analytics. And I was like, you know what? Belichick didn't do anything with the Browns or I think it's with the Jets too, maybe, until he, moved on to the Patriots. Maybe everybody was saying maybe he could be, the next Bill Belichick, takes him a while to.
Well, it's not like Mike McCarthy was unsuccessful at Green Bay.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean,
he won a Super Bowl. But
Yeah, no, and maybe optimistically, if I look at it that way, I hope that it was Kellen Moore, and he's got too much Jason Garrett in him, and that Mike McCarthy is going to go, okay, I gave you a chance, and that was really bad, and so I'm going to call the plays now. I'm still going to let you do the game plans, but I'm going to call the plays because that was bad. It looked the exact same. They took one deep shot the whole game, and it was that PI at the end, which I don't think was pass interference. Oh yeah, you didn't watch the game. I saw
It was not pass
I heard
interference.
about the
it wasn't pass interference. He flopped, but I'm not going to be that Cowboys fan anymore that blames the one call on us losing the game. It's like we lost the game because they played like crap the whole time.
Dez
Like, I'm
did
tired of-
catch it though, and we would have won. I'm with you on that. Like,
Back and said that they were wrong about that, which tells me again, robots versus refs. That's just me.
Nah, not at all. No
so
robots.
no, I'm with you though, Devin. Not blaming everything on fate has conspired against us. But the Dez I mean, that was the dumbest thing. We don't have to get all into that. I just want everybody to know.
We'd already beat that Seattle team pretty handily that year, and so had we won that game, we would have went to the NFC Championship against the Seattle team that we've already beat, and that could have been the year, man. That could have been.
That was the last year that Dez was great. That was the last year Romo was healthy and great. Oh my gosh, that team was awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. I want to see. I'm really hoping we see some change this week with the Cowboys offense, because like it's kind of unacceptable to have that much talent on the offensive side of the ball and score 17 points.
Yeah.
Unacceptable. Yeah. But then again, I don't know. Maybe it was they were down some linemen, and Aaron Donald is a monster. Did you see some of the highlights from him? He was like,
I know who he is though.
And like just throwing them, and then like stiff arming Zeke, and then just hitting Dak. So I don't know. Maybe it was just that Aaron Donald is that good, and there was no time to go down the field. But it looked like a lot of comeback routes. It looked like a lot of running on first down, a lot of conservative play calling, and the score reflected it. How about them Stars though?
Yeah. So
I really am. I've been waiting.
I actually have to.
Championship for 20 years, 21 for them to win one. I'm excited.
Oh, hey, that was a real comment. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so that's one of
about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. So I do have to make an apology because I think going back to the first episode, I said, who cares about hockey? And somebody called me out for that. But I got to apologize because you guys know, maybe the audience doesn't. My roommate's dang no good Yankee, and so we've been watching a lot of playoff hockey, particularly the Flyers. He's the only Philadelphia fan, by the way, who's not an obnoxious Eagles fan, so he's all right about that. Just want to clear here. But we've been watching a lot of the Flyers series, and dude, playoff hockey is awesome.
Yeah.
And so from that, the Stars or the Flyers obviously lost that, but I started watching the Stars, and I'm like, dude, this is actually really, really fun to watch. I'm game for the Stars,
Yeah.
Now, if they have a bad season, I'm probably not going to watch, but I'll watch right now because if you get in overtime in the playoffs in like a game 7, literally the next goal, it's all over. It's the most sudden death that you could possibly have. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about hockey too is I've never really watched.
Have would be like an explosion, right?
What?
I think he was being sarcastic.
I don't think he was talking to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing about playoff hockey though. Like I haven't watched a lot of like playoff hockey, but I'll keep up with like the box scores and I'll see like, and it seems I almost wonder sometimes if it's scripted because it seems like there's multiple times that you can point to in NHL playoff history where a team was down 3-0 and then won 3 straight to take it to game 7 and then won in double overtime. And I'm like, is there anything more dramatic than that?
Yeah.
Dude, well, like that kind of happens. It's not super rare that happens in the NHL, whereas that's never happened in the NBA.
Well, and the NHL has the biggest variability in, I read an article on this, in favorites versus like underdogs versus favorites in the playoffs, because the game is so much more, there's so many more interactions that are random in hockey that you can have a team that's proven to be the best over 82 games, but you put them in a 7-game series and the gap, the odds of winning between the number 1 seed and the 8 seed are not nearly as far apart as say in basketball.
Yeah.
So it's fun, man. But like you're mentioning just the ability to come back. We were watching the Flyers series and they got down 3-1. They ended up winning like 2 games in a row in overtime, and then they went to game 7 and lost. But it was just it was incredibly fun to keep up with. I hadn't had quite a similar experience like that.
Yeah. You made a good point earlier on just like as they're in a bubble too, and with not having fans and stuff like that, it makes it really easy to where an 8 seed can beat a 1 seed. And I do think that that's probably a good reason why the Stars are in the Stanley Cup Finals, because I mean, without that, they would have been going like into who'd they just play? The Vegas Knights.
Yeah.
And in the previous series that went to game 7, they played Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that game 7 would have been in Colorado, which Colorado takes their hockey seriously. Like they're a, decent hockey town. So it probably would have been, a crazy crowd and stuff like that. So it's to take that away from the sport, it does kind of level the playing field because there is no home field advantage now. So home ice advantage.
Yeah. What has been humorous to me is listening to the pumped in crowd noise at the hockey games, because they're the most polite fans ever. And there's no like, oh, they're going to cheer for the home team, whoever's technically the home team. They just cheer every time there's a goal, and they so there's no booing though. It's very weird. Like if you just heard one little clip, it would sound normal. But when you watch a game, it's just like, wow, these people are just into hockey. They don't care about the Stars or the Golden Knights. They just like hockey.
Right.
They just want to have fun.
What was that, Ben? Ben, every time you talk, I'm missing the first 2 words. Am I the only one who's...
No,
the mic probably is just like, oh, he's not talking, so we'll just go ahead and mute him automatically. No, I was just going to say, let's just all have fun, guys. Like, that's the attitude of the crowd.
Yeah.
Big crowd.
Yeah, no, the crowd noise has been weird though, especially for NFL football, because it's been really weird to see a player score, and then they'll show every time a player scores, they show this kind of like low profile, like looking up at him in the end zone as he's like celebrating, and you can usually see the fans in the background, and now it's like you see the empty stands behind the field goal posts, but then you hear this loud like applause of it's very bizarre to watch. I almost kind of wish that they would just not do it. Just embrace the weirdness of 2020. But maybe a reason for that is that they got to drown out the on the field cussing.
Dude, maybe.
So maybe that's a way to just cover that up.
Yeah.
Well, in other news, sports have been pretty cool, but in other news, there might be life on Venus.
All right, I'm back.
Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah, Ben actually.
Yes, they think that there might be life in the clouds on Venus. And the way I saw that was from a Colbert tweet that said, current news mood. There might be life on Venus, but we're too tired to care. And so, like, in a different news cycle, we would actually be like, oh, wow, this is an interesting discovery. Let's talk about it. TV shows. Let's get experts out here. And now it's like, man, things really suck here right now. Do we really want to go there? And so, like, I think that's actually a big commentary on it. But yeah, life on Venus. Are we more surprised about life or that Venus is a thing?
More surprised about Venus.
Wait, what?
Is it confirmed? Like,
no. So what there is they found phosphine. They found phosphine in the clouds, and phosphine is something that's here on Earth. The origins of it are debated. Essentially, it's this idea that, like, hey, there might be life that's causing this stuff to be in the clouds.
Okay.
I still don't think it would be that big. I don't know if it's like I find Colbert's comment humorous, but I don't know if that's super accurate, because saying, hey, there's a certain gas in a cloud on Venus that might be coming from something like life. I think that's a little too far removed for the average person to be like, oh, great discovery in the universe. It's kind of like...
You don't think that during a more quiet news cycle that people would make a bigger deal about it?
Not really. I don't think it would come up in everyday conversation.
I think that
people are making a big deal about it. It's just not making it to top news. It's the quick mention as it passes. But like, people are writing papers left and right about this thing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that they do. Like, that doesn't surprise me. I'm just saying I don't think it would ever have been like a cultural moment of when oh, we're re-understanding our place. And I think it's just like, come back when you actually found out what made the phosphine gas, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, read our little title card right here. It's so, I mean, it accurately describes it. It's just like, oh, what does that do for me as far as what people want to talk about is aliens, you know?
Okay, so
really,
then let's
really
do that.
didn't do a
So
lot.
like how would that be something that would intrigue you guys, scare you guys?
Well, that's been another thing is like, didn't the Pentagon and New York Times actually came out like maybe 2-3 months ago and released an article saying that the Pentagon acknowledges that UFOs are real. They do have.
Yeah. UFO does not mean alien. UFO means
right.
Unidentified flying object. But yeah.
And so if you take the like ancient aliens realm, be like, they helped us build pyramids out of that. That's a huge leap. I know that those people exist.
Well, I think we all know Devin's a subscriber to ancient astronaut theory, you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
With the Anakim and
That's really
thanks for teaching us
scholarly work.
If you were Ezekiel, how do you think you'd describe an alien nuclear reactor or whatever? That's what people say. That's not exactly the Cloud and Venus thing, though, huh?
But okay, so like did y'all see the videos that the Pentagon actually released of like like
the thing that moves, the little Tic Tac ship thing?
Yeah,
that was
the commander. What's his name? Fravor, Commander Fravor. He's the guy.
I can't remember, but there's a lot of people who've like. Apparently, it's very common for Navy pilots to see things like this.
Yeah.
But Isaiah and Ben, have y'all seen the video? Because
it's interesting and it's like
wild.
Most of the time when I see something on social media, I assume it's like, oh, this is just stupid CGI. But this is like, oh no, this came from the flight cam of like
and they confirmed that video. But first, the guy from there's a musician who released the video. I don't know how he got involved in this. What's the most popular like punk band early 2000s? I'm totally no. Yes, it wasn't the Blink-182 lead singer who released the video first.
I have no idea, actually. That'd be interesting.
I'm pretty sure it was. It was somebody like that who first released the video, and it's like, wait,
I'm really into UFOs.
Where did you get this? Why are you telling us? And then like the Pentagon confirmed it like months later, like, oh no, that's a real deal. Yeah, I don't know it. They didn't really say anything about it, but yeah, I don't know how to explain those. But
so I've done like a little bit of research on it just because I thought it was interesting. And it's one of those things that like, as a Christian, I want to know, how should I evaluate this? How should I evaluate what I'm seeing? Because some of this stuff, it's like, you know, some of this stuff is ancient alien stuff. It's stupid. But then, when the Pentagon releases video and says, this is some sort of craft. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it came from. And we've never seen anything that's been able to move like that before. It's like, well, how do you explain that? Personally, I think if the UFOs are real, I think it's just us. And it's, you know, they're not going to tell the average Navy pilot that they're testing some experimental aircraft. There's some really interesting stuff for anybody who wants to know on during World War II, we had, you know, the Manhattan Project, and we experimented with uranium and ultimately created the atom bomb. And now our nuclear technology is like, what is it? They say like a nuke is 100 times more powerful than an atomic bomb. Like,
I mean, compared to the original, it's like way.
But the idea of splitting an atom is like, so like, what does that even mean? That's unfathomable. Yeah. Well, apparently Germans were experimenting with uranium in different ways than us. They failed to make an atomic bomb, but one of their physicists named his last name's Heisenberg, Werner Heisenberg. He actually came up with a theoretical equation.
Also well known in the meth trade.
Yes, very well known. Yeah. He came up with a theoretical equation to use uranium as a propulsion system instead of, you know, making a bomb out of it, using it as like some sort of anti-gravity like propulsion system. And we brought over a ton of Nazi scientists from the war afterwards. And so that's my theory. If UFOs are real, I really doubt that it's aliens from another world. And I think that it's just our own government experimenting with some crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, and there's also the other thing of like, how would they get here? Because apparently everybody says, it's impossible for matter to move the speed of light. And I don't know if you guys have looked at how close the next like solar system is, but it's like thousands of light years or something, right? I mean, it would be like if matter could travel the speed of light, which it's not supposed to be able to from everything that I read, and when I asked my friend who's doing a PhD in physics just to make sure, like, am I getting this right? So like, even if they could go that fast, that would take like thousands of years if they're in the closest spot. So I never understood the whole like advanced visitors, you know?
Yeah. Like obviously
wouldn't everything be too far apart?
Yeah, the propulsion system has to be anti-gravity. That's the only way you can even get close to the speed of light. But you're right. Even if you are traveling the speed of light, which is unfathomably fast, it would still take thousands of years. So, yeah.
Yeah. I like Venus. So Venus might have weeds, but like, I don't
bacteria, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if they have people or if anybody has people to come visit us.
He wrote an article, C.S. Lewis wrote an article like in the 50s on it. And I guess a lot of people were asking the question. I don't know if it was like because of Roswell or whatever. And he just said, there's a few questions that you have to ask before, is there life on another planet? Like one, is it intelligent?
Yeah.
Two, is it spiritual? Like stuff like that. And so he like gave like these different like levels of things. But one of the things he said that was funny, he just goes, I'd be less worried about if they could show up here and more worried about if we got there. And it's just like maybe God keeps things so far apart so that way fallen creatures don't mess up other people. And then he compared mankind to Christian missionaries who did terrible things all in the name of a good cause and called it gun and gospel. And like, it would not be good for us who are awful to show up and then just mess up things that are going pretty well for a bunch of other aliens. And so I like how like
that's the Star Trek rule.
Yeah, don't interact, don't interfere. Yeah. But like I like how most sci-fi is like, oh no, what if aliens showed up here and killed everything? It's like, well, what if you showed up to an alien planet and messed all that up? And so I want to see that movie a little bit more where just like there's a nice alien race and then people show up and oh no, it's human.
You heard it here, aspiring directors. Go read sci-fi.
And there's always the assumption that if there is intelligent life on other planets, they're going to be way more advanced than us. It's like,
well, if they got here, sure.
If it got here, sure. But it's like, okay, maybe there is a planet out there, however far away, that's got maybe the equivalent of like roaches or the top dog there. It's like, roaches have some level of intelligence, but come on, definitely not.
Sorry, if a roach was intelligent, it still doesn't have, manipulable fingers with opposable thumbs, and it still can't stand upright. It's not like they'd make anything.
Ability to be self-aware that they're a thing in the universe.
There's gosh, that would be horrible. Can you imagine being trapped in an animal body with human intelligence? You couldn't do anything.
And that's the thing. Even if we found somehow a planet out there one day that had just imagine a planet with everything that we have on Earth except human beings. That would be a huge discovery, but it's still a massive leap to get from dogs and cats and lions and elephants to rational human beings who are self-aware in the universe and create things like technology. And yeah.
And especially to have any kind of life that's as highly evolved as the four of us. It's unthinkable, anywhere in the universe.
Yeah. But no, I really like C.S. Lewis's thinking on that, maybe God's protecting the rest of the universe from time polluting and
we're in isolation, we're in quarantine just because, keep that stuff there. Let's not.
Which theologically makes sense, with just the fallen state. Because that's another thing I've heard is say there was like intelligent, sentient life out there. One, it would still kind of technically have to be God created. And maybe it's not in a fallen state. And so.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is just like if there is life on another planet, that doesn't do anything for your theology because God can technically do what he wants. Exactly. The idea that there should only be life on Earth is a rather arrogant sort of perspective to have. And so what I just tell people, because I get this question more often than you think in ministry. I've gotten if y'all do, but it's just like, God can make bacteria on another planet far away that we would never know about, and God would still be just as glorified with that as he would be with the fish that we would never discover at the bottom of the ocean. That life does not exist so you can discover and appreciate it. It exists so that God can be glorified in its existence. And so I think that the whole debate it doesn't have to get crazy and doesn't have to change anyone's belief system. But if we find one, I hope they have cool stuff.
Yeah.
So, have I shared with y'all the story of a time where I saw a flying thing in the sky, the identity of which I could not ascertain? Have I shared that with y'all before?
No.
Oh, yeah. It was not a UFO, all right? I want to make that clear. It was something in the sky of which I could not identify readily. It's actually near my apartment. I saw you got everybody's seen a shooting star. Why is it solo on me right now? Bring everybody back in on this, Isaiah. I don't want to. But you know what a shooting star looks like, right? You know how it just streaks across the sky and it's gone. So I saw a green shooting star that was way bigger than that.
Yeah, I saw that like maybe 3 months ago.
Okay, yeah. Dude, I tried Googling that. Did you find any info on that? It was awesome, but...
Well, when did you see it?
This was several years ago. Okay. This is about the time I first moved into my my current apartment. I was just coming down the street, and it was like bigger and brighter than a full moon. Green, shot across the sky like a shooting star and went away.
But yeah, when I saw the same thing, it wasn't near as fast as a shooting star. Like we were driving, and it took maybe a good 15 seconds to go from one end of my windshield all the way to the other. So we got a good look at it. Yeah, and then at the end, it like flashed and then it was gone, and I assume it was it was a so I got on Twitter after that, and I just like meteor DFW, did anybody see it? And I saw that there were plenty of other people on Twitter going, did anybody see a green thing float across or shoot across?
I tried that just on I tried on Google. Just did anybody see a green light meteor star thing over Dallas? And I couldn't find anything.
It was I don't know the difference in a meteor and an asteroid. I think meteor smaller, I don't know, but
one of them hits the earth and one of them goes on its merry way. I can't remember.
Is when it finally just bursts up in the atmosphere. But yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm glad somebody else has seen something similar. I mean, I didn't think it was aliens or anything, but it was hard to explain to people. I was like, no, I believe it was some kind of astronomical phenomenon. I just I can't find any info on it.
I'm with you. When I was driving for like the first 5 seconds of watching it, I was like, what am I seeing right now? And then it was
cool.
And then your rationalism takes over, and like, a meteor, an asteroid, maybe. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Did y'all see the Goodyear blimp thing?
No.
In New Jersey, there were all these people freaking out because there was a Goodyear blimp with an electronic green board that just it what do you call it, like almost like a teleprompter thing where the words go across it. And so because it was kind of hazy outside, it was like behind a cloud and it was floating low, it looks like a saucer shaped thing with a green underglow. And there are like thousands of people posting all over Twitter and stuff in New Jersey, oh my god, is anybody else seeing the UFO, blah blah blah. Turns out it was a Goodyear blimp. So
that reminds me of the leprechaun in Mobile, Alabama. Who else here seen the leprechaun? They're like, yeah.
That's good. Anyway, Isaiah, UFOs, aliens.
Yeah,
dominating the conversation.
Wasn't this your topic?
Yeah, this is mine.
This is.
Oh, I thought it was Isaiah's.
No. Next up, though, we've got this past Wednesday, a bunch of celebrities froze their Instagram and Facebook accounts, all in support of essentially it's a nonprofit, Stop Hate for Profit. It's a bunch of nonprofits, consumers, businesses that are getting together, just kind of furthering that effort to stop hate speech. Facebook and Instagram and companies like that are getting a lot of flack, primarily Facebook and Instagram, because they're owned both by Facebook, getting a lot of scrutiny and criticism for just allowing misinformation, hate speech, things like that on their platforms, as opposed to so Stop Hate for Profit, they've even they've acknowledged that other platforms like Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that have taken steps in combating that. But anyway, if you guys remember, there was a bunch of businesses, like Facebook supposedly lost like $7 billion earlier this year with advertisers that had pulled out. But then when you looked at their second quarter, when the quarter numbers came out, it didn't really do a lot of damage. And so this has been crazy because it's like one of the first steps for this as it continues to amass support and stuff like that. And it's backed primarily from pull it up to make sure I get them, like the ADL and NAACP, Common Sense, different groups, partners like that are coming together. But it's amassing support. But the big thing was this Wednesday, they all froze their Facebook and Instagram accounts for a day. And so it's gotten a lot of support, obviously, from people that are wanting to champion that cause. Yes, Ben?
For a day?
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. Well, there's a lot of money that these people generate in Drive, even just on a day on their platforms. But however, so a lot of the support, you had celebrities like Mark Ruffalo and Kim Kardashian West, Katy Perry, all of them were going on and saying, yeah, I'm going to do this. We're going to go blank for a day, which got a lot of support. And then you had a lot of criticism that was just like, from both sides. One, because you had criticism from the people that are like, this is dumb. It's a hate speech isn't a thing, or this is all a movement towards censorship and stuff like that. But you also had criticism for people that are for the cause, because they were just like, if what happened in the summer didn't work, what makes you think one day of going, like they were pretty much criticizing a lot of these celebrities primarily for making this just a show, for them, just to show that they're a part of the cause and stuff like that, which has been a similar thing. Anytime a celebrity for any of the stuff, especially this year, that they speak up, that's always the thing we pipe up and say, why should they care? Should they not care? And so a lot of that same vein of thought. And so I thought it was interesting, one, because it happened this week. I didn't notice it, because I don't follow a ton of celebrities on Facebook and Instagram, but I thought it was interesting, and I would love to get y'all's takes on a couple of things. First off, just the topic of hate speech. Like, when you guys hear that phrase, what do you think? Is it something that you have a strong opinion about? Do you wonder even what people are talking about when they say it? Like, when it comes to the topic of hate speech out there, primarily on social media platforms like Facebook, what are your guys' thoughts?
So hate speech, I mean, if you just hear it simply, it's, oh, that's just hateful words, right? Which I think we can all recognize that. But it's really a technical term for a certain kind of speech that should not be protected, or speech that should be censored no matter what, that should have repercussions followed, possibly a lot of times legal. And so I understand the sentiment behind not wanting to hear, because what's often pointed to is just some of the worst, most vile things, often like far right groups and that kind of thing, which I think are, especially anything that's racist or militant is vile and ungodly and sinful and hateful. I think the problem, though, is since it's a technical term that's used for anything that gets this label, is basically persona non grata, should be done away with. The use of that term can become very dependent on whoever's using it. So when I hear people say we need to stop hate speech, it's going to come down to, okay, well, who's going to decide? Because that's going to make that it will go farther past the most obvious groups, farther past the most obvious things, depending on just who's making the decision. So I'm not trusting in people's judgment to decide what is and what is not actually hate speech. But what do y'all think?
I agree, and I think that it becomes very subjective. Like, oh, are you saying that all just offensive things? Because you can't get rid of offensive things. Like, anyone who decides to engage in public discourse will put themselves under the risk of being offended, and that's fine. But I think that if by hate speech they mean like cyberbullying, like unnecessary things that actually seem to be attacking the mental well-being of a person specifically, not things that just offended, but like personal attacks, we can have a conversation about that maybe, especially whenever it comes to younger people who are engaging in social media, which might not be healthy for them to do so. You might almost need to put an age thing on social media, but let's not go there. But if it's active threats, if it's active threatening words that seem to be trying to incite violent action against a person or a group, then yeah, absolutely I think that sort of thing needs to be taken care of and to be flagged or so if I'm following correctly, the idea is that these social media platforms are seeing, if they're seeing things like that, if they're seeing violent statements like that, they're not doing a good enough job of flagging those things or doing away with those things and closing those accounts. I can see a little bit about that. I don't think Facebook and Twitter are the main, or Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are the main places that I see have that problem. I think your Reddit probably is actually worse at that for allowing.
So here's the thing on that, Ben. The movement is actually specifically targeting Facebook and then in turn Instagram, because they actually praise Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube for having. If you remember, even earlier this year, Twitter went under fire from a portion of people because they were pulling tweets back. Even from the president, they've removed some of Donald Trump's tweets, and so like those platforms have actually been praised. The movement is actually, or Stop Hate for Profit is actually targeting and making demands of Facebook.
Huh. I haven't seen I've seen a lot of vile stuff on Facebook, but I haven't seen a lot of what I guess I would classically describe as hate speech. Like I've seen plenty of ignorant opinions, plenty of opinions that you could say that's a stereotypical or that's a racist opinion, but there is still a difference between that and hate speech.
What do you think that difference is?
Well, a malicious intent, I guess, or just I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like in today's society, people are more tactful about it. You just can't say certain things like you maybe used to. Like I'm just saying, when I think hate speech, I think, somebody putting on their Facebook status, I hate, and then blank insert racial slur. I never see that. Now I will say a lot of generalizations.
That's a very narrow understanding compared to the broader understanding.
True.
Of
yeah.
hate
But
speech
that's as simplistic as I can say it. But, and then obviously speech that incites violence, can be classified as hate speech, right? But
here's the thing. I'm sorry, go ahead, Devin.
I typically don't see a lot of that. Now, like I'll go and, click on some comment sections on not just people that I know, but like you'll click on the larger thread of all the comments. And occasionally you'll see some pretty, some stuff with, I guess, people's burner accounts, where they say some pretty hateful stuff. But I feel like that's fairly rare, but again, every day, I mean, I deleted Facebook off my phone this week, and I think it's one of the best things I've ever done. So I can only look at it on my computer, because you will see just opinions and just vile stuff, but nothing I would really classify as hate speech.
So let me toss this, Ben. You were about to jump in, but let me toss this just into the conversation just to give more context. So on their page, they've got essentially like their 10 demands, if you will, because they've this website. Here's the thing, they are honest about what they are. If you go to their FAQ page, it's a lot of good stuff. But they're like 10 demands, if you will, and they're split up into 3 categories: accountability, decency, and support. And as I read through some of these, I'm like, yeah, for sure. But then there's some that I'm like, at what point are you telling me what I can and can't say? Yeah. And so, like under the accountability, they have, like their first one is about, their demand for Facebook is to establish and empower a permanent civil rights infrastructure in the business that would actually evaluate products and policies for discrimination, bias, and hate is the words they use. Submitting to a regular third-party independent audit system based on hate and misinformation. So essentially they would allow a third party to look into the facts and stuff like that of content that is put out there. Audit and refund to advertisers whose ads were shown next to content that was later removed, which is, you probably don't hear a lot about that when you hear this news, but there's a lot of people that are like, hey, I paid for advertisement and it showed up next to an ad that was taken or content that was removed, and now I'm not getting any play. Under the decency category, talking about finding and removing public and private groups focused on white supremacy, militia, anti-Semitism, violence, conspiracies, Holocaust denialism, vaccine misinformation, and climate denialism. Even just in that list, I'm like, yes, 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 no, yes, yes. Yeah. And so like,
and it's like, well, and you can imagine how broad some of those categories can be made into.
Yeah. That is initially when you say all those, most of those, I'm like far right, far right, far right, far right. I'm like, and the far left is just as big of a problem in my opinion as the far left is. So
as the far right. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Yeah.
So what about like Antifa and stuff like that? You're going to target white supremacist groups and stuff like that, but are you going to target Antifa groups?
Well, yeah. So on number 5, they've got, adopting common sense changes their policies that will help stem radicalization and hate on the platform. So groups like that. Stop recommending.
But also the vague comment of adopting common sense policies to prevent these things. It's just like,
for sure.
oh, gee,
and this is this
you
is
think
the
Facebook hadn't tried to think through that?
well, and one of the FAQs they even have on here was like, hey, hasn't Facebook done some of these things? And they acknowledge Facebook has made some steps, but that they consider them very minuscule compared to the problem at hand. Just blowing through these. Stop recommending or otherwise amplifying groups or content from groups associated with hate, misinformation, conspiracy theories. There's some more under the decency section. And then under the support, one that really stuck out to me, they were just like, create expert teams to review submissions on identity-based hate and harassment. 42% of daily users on Facebook have experienced harassment on the platform, and much of it is based on their individual or their identity. And then on number 10, they were like, and I think we would all agree with this, enable individuals facing severe hate and harassment to connect with a live Facebook employee. If you've ever tried to get anything done with Facebook support, you will never get to talk to an actual person. So for many reasons other than that,
it's not just Facebook. That's pretty much the
But I mean, Facebook's also so large
that
$70 billion there's no way they could ever accommodate something like that. I mean, how many users?
Well, so here's a part of my opinion in this is like, because I'm still wrestling through and I want to hear more. You guys jump back into like the conversation about this topic. Is this even the right way to go about trying to take it down? Is it even a problem? But like, it is kind of, when I read that, I thought the same thing. I was like, there's no way you would ever be like, what are they really expecting? That's ridiculous. I'm on their gaming platform that they've been pushing, and I've been able to talk to actual people from Facebook gaming. Now, whether that's like outsourced or anything like that, I'm in groups where people from Facebook gaming are actually interacting and answering my questions. And so I was just like,
but there's not a billion people who do Facebook gaming, but there is a billion people who are on Facebook, and probably millions who might try to talk to a live person at any given time.
But what I'm saying is that if you were to, they were able, like, you wouldn't just, I'm not saying everybody that, but if there's that group that is saying that, hey, this has happened to me, like I would love to see a team assembled to be able to interact with them on a personal basis. Because if this stuff is happening, right, I think even the stuff we totally agree with, the cyberbullying and stuff like that, not the gray stuff that everyone's arguing about, like I would love to know that they would be putting a team together, and they probably are, but that you could actually interact with someone instead of being put through an automated chat or something like that, or just dealing with it. But that was my 2 cents. Ben, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I forgot. I was going to say, kind of just following up on what Devin and Josh both said, but yeah, we can say that there's the idea of inciting violence and inciting violence towards a group of people or an individual. And yeah, we can easily identify people who are actively saying like, hey, we should go like burn this place down, or we should go kill these people. But what you can't account for is someone who just says something malicious that inspires someone to actually take violent action. And so at what point do you backtrack what should and should not be said? Because it could make someone else do something. Like if you go on TikTok and you go through like videos and stuff and someone does something stupid, they put a disclaimer on it saying that you have to be careful because actions done in this video could be harmful if reproduced. And so they have to actually put, and it's just so dumb, a warning label on dumb videos of people getting hurt. And I'm like, you really shouldn't have to. But to a similar, question on censorship, should we censor people who say rude, caustic things that could inspire someone else to just do something worse? And so that's where it becomes more debatable. Where do you draw those lines?
Yeah.
And so I think, like with what Josh said, common sense is such a vague term, and it's subjective. Like one person's common sense is another person's like, oh, I had to study a long time to get to that conclusion. So not everything is obvious to everyone, especially if you have different beliefs.
So, and some of the things that they put out there, like, oh, well, if you have a third party review this, well, it's like, well, then you'll just get mad at the third party for whatever they say. Like, nobody's ever going to be able to do this exactly how you think it should be done. That's why I think a lot of this trying to put as much categories of speech into hate speech as possible is just a horrible endeavor, because it is always going to depend on who's the one who's making the judgments. And you're going to end up deplatforming people who don't deserve to be,
it seems like a slippery slope. I mean,
yeah, and it's a goal that cannot be accomplished even the way they want it to be done. Even if it's done completely by their standards, they would fail at doing it.
So let me ask you. Go ahead, Devin.
In principle, this sounds like something that I would want to be for, like, yeah, I'd love to stop hate speech, but yeah, no, because it is such an impossible task and it is such a slippery slope. And I think they've already overreached with censorship with some of the pandemic stuff. Like, while I thought that stuff was nonsense and I didn't agree with it, I didn't think it should be taken down, because me and Ben had a conversation about this, that when that happens, it emboldens the people who already believe that ideology. Yeah. They're right. See, they're taking it down. They don't want you to know the truth. And it's like, I think it's better
against the big dogs. It's against the corporations, whatever it is. Yeah. You entered this conspiracy mindset that if you're being censored, that means that you were onto something true, and they don't want you to know about it.
Well, and think about even stuff that's less extreme than that. Like, you have, like, if somebody's just questioning general, like, hey, do we have to shut down everything, or are masks, and I'm not trying to make a statement on any of those things, but just something where somebody legitimately asks, is this actually worth doing? Is that denying the what do we call it, a pandemic? Is that hate speech? It's just like, man, I feel like people should be, people should be able to speak on those things, because it's not crazy to ask questions. It's certainly not hateful. I mean, that's just dumb. Even like the climate denialism stuff, it's just like, why can't people just talk about that if they want?
So I'm going to throw some things out there. Did you guys hear about, or so another like thing kind of in that same topic though, have y'all heard about all the drama between Spotify, their employees, with moving Joe Rogan's podcast over?
I did actually.
No.
So when they moved it all over, there were a number of episodes that were missing, and a lot of these episodes were his episodes.
Like Alex Jones.
Yeah, they had guests that are very
whatever his name is.
Yeah, that they had a lot of controversial guests. Also, though, there were also episodes that had guests that weren't controversial that didn't make it over. And it was actually Alex Jones. He even came out and downplayed it. He was just like, "No, I talked to Rogan. They moved over 1,000 episodes. Like, it's coming in a second wave." But it came back up because actually Spotify, what's the guy's name's Daniel Ek, had to have like an all hands on deck meeting because a number of his employees have gone essentially and said like, "Hey, having his show on here violates our ERG guidance about like transphobic content being on the podcast." Or on our platform, and like we feel that like we're being not persecuted. I'm missing a word here in my head, but like they feel like they're not being heard. They feel like this is going against it, and so now there's like this internal fight. Spotify has decided as of now that like, no, his episodes will stay on because it doesn't violate our guidelines, and so it's just one of those, because and they cite certain segments of his show and certain episodes where things could be seen as transphobic. Even just this past week, he made remarks about Caitlyn Jenner, and so like it's just one of these things where like I totally agree with you guys. The line of opinion and stuff like that, is subjective. But I feel like we've even been on here. Would you guys agree that like we've been on here griping about misinformation on news sources and stuff like that? Like, I guess the question becomes like, it's if you're Facebook, what do you do if level-headed for the like people like us, I feel like, are saying, hey, this is a problem, but we also know there's no solution to it? Well, the business has to do something. What do we expect from the?
So.
Well, because if they do nothing though, it goes off the rails, and then the business ends up failing.
I mean, there's plenty of misinformation to be found everywhere. More than anything, I mean, Facebook's not a publisher; they're a platform for people to self-publish. Whatever that might be. And so as far as like misinformation stuff,
so let me ask it this way,
that's on us. That's on everybody watching this, everybody who uses Facebook.
But let me ask it this way then, like, does the platform not have any responsibility to try and combat the things that are leading to, bad things happening, whether it be from cyberbullying and stuff like that? Does the platform not
leading to bad things happening? I don't know what that means.
Oh, I'm talking about, so I'll go to the cyberbullying because I think it's the one that we all agree is the thing. So the cyberbullying happening on your platform leading to a child doing something to themselves.
Right. Well, so that's different than misinformation though.
Yeah, that's very different.
That's far different.
I think that
is not misinformation is something I could really get behind, but yeah.
I think that, those are two different things, but even what drives a person to do something like commit suicide, that's also subjective, because one would consider it hate speech just because you said something that was disagreeable for that person, but was not necessarily trying to be an attack on their humanity. So if you have a person who says, I believe that there are only two genders, and that person takes that and internalizes it because they're dealing with gender dysmorphia or whatever, and then that's a listed contribution, that's not hate speech. That was an objective or a subjective opinion, depending on the perspective on it.
But that would be considered hate speech by a large audience of people.
Exactly. Yeah. Like they said, I only believe in two genders. That's not saying that you want to cause any harm against someone else. Like J.K. Rowling, for example, she was just lambasted for saying that she, believes that trans women, male to female trans women, are not women in the feministic sense that women's rights apply to them, because it's
or
been
the real sense.
In the real sense, really. Because their experiences aren't the same. Like the life experiences aren't the same. And so, that trans women aren't real women. However that field wants to categorize that or to define that. And she was attacked for that, and had threats against her life for it. And so it's just interesting to see what people would say is hate speech versus just disagreement. But misinformation, I think, is an even different conversation, maybe for another day, that's been going on since.
No, I do see I think I picked up on what Isaiah is saying here.
Let me say it one more time, Devin, and then because I think a big part of this misinformation is throughout this whole entire agenda. Like that's with actually things like you don't see the word racism or transphobia hardly at all on this site. It's attacking misinformation and hate speech, and obviously those things are a part of it. When in categorize it with those definitions, my question is more like, imagine you're running it. So are you guys saying you would let known misinformation that is going to eventually damage the quality of your business? It's the same reason you don't watch certain news sites, right? Well, that means they're no longer getting your money. Are you really expecting them to not do anything to try to combat false news?
I'm not saying that.
So
I'm just saying they don't technically have the responsibility. They can do what they want, though.
Okay, so maybe not responsibility. So then what would we expect them to do, or what do you think is a reasonable thing for them to do?
The ones that crop up big and get a fuss about them, they may or may not act on them depending on the personal ideologies of whoever's running it. That's how they have been doing it. And you could say there should be something more objective and comprehensive. But honestly, I think I don't care. You bring in a third party to review things, whatever, it's always going to be, they're never going to see the stuff that doesn't get viral. The stuff that does, they're going to have to make a decision. Is this actually hateful? Could this lead to destructive things? And that's always going to be a coin flip depending on the person. So
not to mention that sometimes even in that process of trying to censor or fact check, that you're going to find people who do that almost unnecessarily and make a bigger deal out of it than it's supposed to be. Like when Snopes fact checked Babylon Bee, it's a ridiculous sort of thing. And it is so much that the Babylon Bee did an article on Times that we got fact checked by Snopes. They acknowledged it. And so, but that's not necessarily just a commentary on Snopes. That's a commentary on people are dumb no matter whether or not a third party is going to try to verify something. That the sad truth is that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, every social media outlet could do everything in their power to try to fact check as well and thoroughly and unbiased as they could. Mm-hmm. And people, unfortunately, are still stupid and are not going to care one direction or another on it, and they're just going to try to confirm the things that they already think.
Yeah. Devin, what were you going to say?
By the way, go ahead, Devin, go ahead.
Oh, I was just seeing how, I do agree that, misinformation and hate speech are, very different things, but I do see how they kind of intertwine here when you're talking about how Rogan has been criticized for being transphobic before, which because to me that's misinformation, because if you take a 2-minute snippet out of context, it sounds really bad, well, depending on who you are, it could sound really bad. But then if you listen to the full interview, it's like no, dude. This is Joe Rogan is a guy who is very much pro gay marriage, very liberal in those ideas, very much for trans people, but then also he doesn't go way too far with it like some people do. And obviously as Christians we have different perspectives on that than Joe Rogan does. But and same thing with like J.K. Rowling, like that's a total mischaracterization of what she said. She said something that was very rational, and that a lot of I think a huge majority of feminists would probably agree with her in that and say that no, it's not transphobic. It's just you're saying that these are apples and these are oranges and they're not the same. And there's nothing wrong with that. So
yeah. I think associating disagreement with fear and hatred of what you disagree with is, most people just like, no, I just think there's two genders, or no, I just think that they're wrong about this. The label of, oh, you must hate them and fear them. That's some kind of phobia. It's like, not really.
So there's a feminist, an Australian feminist named Germaine Greer, who she a few years ago, well, for several years now, she's been sort of attacked by the left. That she was actually sort of say that she is in the left based off of how she perceives her feminism. That because of it, she has been denied honorary doctorates from several universities because she has stated, similar to J.K. Rowling, that trans women don't fall under the category of real women, and so they're like, that's transphobic, that's hate speech. And she just goes, no, it's not. And the person who's interviewing her from like BBC just did a ridiculous thing and made assumed comments that said that she wanted ill will or had ill will towards the trans community. And so she references a video of a trans male to female woman who's walking down the street, and people start like throwing things and yelling things, cursing at this person. And the interviewer asked Germaine Greer, do you think that's an acceptable action? That they would treat her like this? And Germaine Greer said, am I right in saying that this person in the video was naked as they were doing this, walking down the street? And she just goes, well, yes. He goes, well, that would happen to anyone who's walking down the street like that. Like that's not against a trans person at all. And so the fact that she had made these comments about, femininity and what a real woman is, that those who are sort of having to fall under the camp of, trans rights and pro-trans feel like they have to set themselves against her or make her the enemy. And so I think that with your news outlets, with social media and stuff like that, that I don't think that I trust them enough to be truly unbiased about what hate speech is, but that they're more inclined to determine what hate speech is based off of what the thermometer of society is and what seems to be fashionable and popular.
Yeah.
So here's the last question I would ask then. So like for anybody, whether it's a business, a nonprofit, or an individual that does want to help combat the things that, again, I'm hinting at more, or I'm leaning toward like the things that we would all agree in this subjective line that moves all the time are currently on the things that are bad, right? I just keep saying the cyberbullying thing to get us in that right spot. Like, what can we do to help combat hate speech, intentional hate speech, misinformation, those kind of things? What can we do then to help combat those? If it's more than just like I'm not a celebrity that makes millions and freezing my account does nothing. What can we do?
Not a lot. I think the biggest
thing is,
well, there's a lot of things about the world are like that. We just had a whole episode on the acceptance of death that can actually be hopeful. So,
but we're also supposed to be, rays of hope as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And keep hoping. But I think the biggest thing is take responsibility for your own life and make sure that you're not a participant in that. And you might be able to influence a small number of people around you, maybe.
Yeah.
Think about anything that you care about in your life that you would wish that other people would believe. You already know the extent of how far that can go. and the things you can do to further that. And it's not a lot. It doesn't mean it's worthless. In fact, I don't want to be one of these, one of those naive people, but if enough of us do that kind of thing, then, the world gets a little bit better. So I think the first thing to do is don't think this is what they need to do. Think, what do I need to do? And it might be very small in the grand scheme of things, but it's not insignificant at all within your own life and small sphere of influence.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything we can do like large scale or whole scale, to like really transform society. But I think you can change the ideas of, a couple of people that I'd like to be an optimist and, talk about multiplication and say, oh, and that can, you just change 3 people around you and they go and the pyramid scheme it up. They change 3 people around them. But that just doesn't seem like.
And pass the earnings back to you. And
yeah.
You said pyramid scheme. I've just
pass the earnings back.
That's a dumb joke. I do that.
I would just tell people that if you consider the hateful things that are said on social media as so bad, you're still engaging with social media itself. The real question is, do you actually hate it a lot, or do you not hate it enough because you're still willing to actually keep that platform? So if you really did think that,
so you canceled Netflix.
No, it was like that though. But like, if you really thought that more harm than good was being done, then you wouldn't just be encouraging the platform to change. You would be encouraging people to say, maybe we don't need social media and social networking.
That's a good point. Yeah. And I
don't know if I see the
connection. I don't. I would disagree with that because I would say that I
disagree heavily. I don't see a correlation.
I think I understand the sentiment. Like, hey, like if you don't like it, stop it. But I think that we're all called to. I mean, here's the thing: if I enjoy something and I see it going a different way, I want to fix it, and I'm going to try and be a part of the changes that I think are going to get it back to something I enjoy.
Well, then I guess this is the question of how, like, in the scope of like hate speech or misinformation, and then we can go even the other direction of how social media has actually made people be lonelier, and so like
support it
more shallow. So like, at what point do you take a step back and look at the platform and say, this is actually doing more harm than good, and that it would be better to take a step away from the whole thing rather than.
But then that's more on individual concerns, not so much hate speech. So that's a totally different reason for.
No, I'm just asking. I'm encouraging people to take stock of their priority. Is it that you are you saying this because you love social media and you don't want it to go in a negative direction, or are you saying this because you just feel offended and you want to stay on social media and you just want it to seem better for you? Because if you truly thought that this was hurting and causing damage to people and that there was no fixing it, and I see that they are wanting to fix it, then at what point does the conversation need to be had that says that we should just get rid of social media or take steps away from it?
So you're an offense guy, not a defense guy.
I'm the type of person that says that it is about personal responsibility. So I agree with Josh on that. It's about your own personal responsibility. But at what point do we pass a threshold that says that this is actually just more divisive, more harmful, more negative, and through, and it does not give us enough good things that we should keep it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm more for like
at what point do we abandon? Huh?
I don't think we'll ever fully abandon like social media, and I guess until whatever the next thing is comes along. But maybe like to take what you're saying to like maybe social media is not the area to have these conversations. Which
whoa, hold on.
Only have those conversations over social media.
Unless it's in a nicely produced video podcast format, of which you should participate, comment, like, subscribe.
At least the video elements of it makes people face to face, so you're a lot less likely to say something hateful, to somebody's face, even if it's over video, than typing on a comment section.
I don't know. I've watched Skip Bayless, so.
Oh, fair enough.
Gosh.
Okay, this is a good point, actually. Yeah. I think most hate speech and misinformation is done out of ignorance, and it's more rare that it's done out of a malicious intent. Unless you're a person like Skip Bayless, where he said what he said about Dak's depression over his brother's suicide. And he didn't say that out of...
I didn't hear about that.
You did.
What?
I thought you were just talking about him being just annoying.
No, gosh.
Almost got himself like canceled, and I'm not for cancel culture, but I think I'd be for canceling Skip Bayless because he came out and basically said he has no sympathy for Dak Prescott suffering from depression after the suit. When this was the first time Dak had said that his brother's death was a suicide. We didn't know that until he said that. Talked about how when that happened and then COVID hit, it sent him into a deep depression. And Skip Bayless came out and said, I don't have any sympathy for you expressing these things because you're the quarterback of America's team and you need to be seen as a leader. And he got ripped apart appropriately. Wow. Here's the thing. I don't think Skip Bayless actually believes what he says most of the time.
Because was his character too long?
Yes, his job is to say things that send people into an outrage because it equals viewers. And that's actually a really good commentary on the media in general. But I think when it comes to social media, most people spreading hate speech and misinformation are doing so because they're ignorant. Same thing with racism. Most of the time, racism comes from fear and ignorance rather than just it can be malicious, but rather than just a deep, like malicious intent in somebody's heart, it's obvious. It's usually just from fear and ignorance. But
Ben, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say that even if Skip Bayless said that just because he thought that being caustic was important for his career and that he doesn't actually believe it, he just knows that that was going to get a rise out of it. I don't think that absolves him in a new way. I think that I heard a lot of people saying that in 2015 and 2016, just with politicians on any side of the spectrum, that they don't actually mean that. They're just saying that because they know, and so people were actually trying to minimize the damage being done by their statements by trying to say that they think the person doesn't actually believe that. But if you say something that you know is going to be harmful, but don't even have the personal conviction behind actually believing it, but you're saying a bad thing for the sake of advancing your own career and agenda, I don't think that's any better. If anything, there may be an element that makes
it worse.
Yeah, no, it's worse. I think the only thing, it's not like it gets him off free. It's just kind of like what he did, he should face the full punishment and suffer the consequences of what he said, regardless of intent. I think that should often be the case. But I think as soon as he said that and heard the backlash, he goes, oh my gosh, I did not even think about how dumb and horrible.
No, he doubled down. He doubled down on it the next day.
Oh, really?
He did.
Oh, well, yeah. Gosh.
That's
really?
That was really nice of you, Josh, to try to make out. Try to look for.
Oh man, I just want to fix everything. I feel like everything has a solution, and my world.
No, and I agree with Ben. Like those types of people are far worse than people who do it out of ignorance because they know exactly what they're doing.
Wow. And that's now people are going to think Stephen A. is reasonable.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he came out actually. He shared a testimony in opposition to Skip's way to go about it. He actually came on and talked about his depression after losing his sister and his mom, and stuff like that. And so I'm not the biggest Stephen A. fan, but it definitely
I'm not either.
Felt for the dude when I saw that segment.
Yeah.
So here's what I would say. I think we're gonna go ahead and call that today, unless you guys really, really want to jump into the wheel.
No.
So we'll move those to next week. That'd be a huge tonal shift.
I do like the topics you prepared for us, Ben, but I just I feel like we've hit our time and
my word even matches it.
It's okay, Caillou. We'll get you next week.
Wash it. Again next week.
So here's what I would say, just because I really enjoyed going down that with you guys. I think one thing that we would want anyone listening to hear, you guys can agree or disagree or add to it, is that your words do matter, and if you're going to say things, if you're going to say things, type things, write things, do so to build people up instead of tear people down. You'll have a lot bigger impact in the world, in a way that is going to be further lasting. So even amongst the differing opinions here, like, be nice, don't be a jerk. Whether it's on your social media platform, in person, especially in person, and especially in these times. So just want to make sure that is said before we head off today.
And be willing to challenge your own worldviews.
Yeah,
for sure. Be willing to hear the other side. But
like my shirt here, The Republic by Plato. I know this is going to sound super obscure.
Show us.
But I didn't know how to think or challenge my own worldviews till I read Plato and listened to Socrates. So just a little pro tip, you know.
Yeah.
That's actually, I 100% agree with what Josh just said. Go check out The Republic, guys.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ben. Thank
show,
you.
Show us the shirt. Show us the shirt. That's a tongue twister.
Oh, this is, I mean, you're pretty much saying it. It's just,
Oh,
I think it's 300,000 words.
I
Not
thought,
300,000
sorry.
words. That's way too much. 30,000 words from
I thought that was the pattern, and you had text on it.
The whole thing.
No, it is text. Text is the pattern. Yeah.
Hey, for those that were in the chat, we got some new people in here. Man, thanks for jumping in.
What?
Make sure you guys are liking this page. You can also go over to our YouTube and follow us there if that's your platform you prefer. If you've got premium and you just want to listen and toss it in your pocket, we'll upload those videos right after this. But thanks for hanging out today. This is a fun chat. We'll take some of those other topics, move them to next week. But we will be back here Friday at noon. And also, if you like movies, you should go and check out our movie review, Movies with Josh, a new segment we've got going on. We'll be uploading those, but we had a hour and a half long conversation about No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. I want it to be called Josh Awful's Not So Awful Films, and that's really
actually really good.
Yeah. I'd be down for that. If we could pick a short way to put that on the screen.
Isaiah says we'll see because he's like, I already did the artwork.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, you go ahead and go design that in Canva, and
yeah, we will.
Hey, you guys do whatever y'all want. So hey, this has been fun. We will see you guys next week.
Go Stars.
See you guys. Go Stars. Yeah. Woo.
Cowboys.